Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Tonight, we begin with Elon Musk. Does he want to be the next US president? We ask because the world's richest man has launched his own political party. He wants to take on Donald Trump, not with memes or tweets, but a political contest. The bromance is truly over, but does Musk stand a chance here? We'll break it down for you tonight. Also in focus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the BRICS summit in Brazil. The bloc condemned the Pahalgam terror attack, but stopped short of calling out Pakistan. Why is US President Trump rattled with BRICS? He's threatening a 10% extra tariff. In Pakistan, why is the government fuming over Bilawal Bhuttos Zardari's extradition offer to India? How a French investigation has exposed China's campaign to smear the Rafale jets. Should the Dalai Lama receive the Bharat Ratna? We'll tell you how the debate is heating up here in India. How India's regulator quietly blocked a 4.3 billion trading spree. A bizarre Chinese mobile game glamorizing gold diggers and the backlash that it's sparking, and the floods in Texas, more than 80 lives lost. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian claims Israel attempted to assassinate him, but says the US, a key ally of Israel, was not involved in this bid on his life. Last month, Israel and Iran fought a 12-day war. Israel's defense minister has admitted that Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei was a target, but Washington had reportedly vetoed the plan to kill him. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to meet US President Donald Trump later tonight. Netanyahu says the meeting in Washington could help advance the Gaza ceasefire deal. Trump has been pushing for a deal this week to end the war, which began in October 2023. On Sunday, Netanyahu sent negotiators to Qatar for indirect talks with Hamas. Russian authorities say the country's former transport minister killed himself after Roman Stratovoit's body was found in his car with a gunshot wound. Just hours before, President Vladimir Putin had fired him. The dismissal came amid travel chaos at airports caused by Ukrainian drone attacks. He had served as Russia's transport minister since May 2024. Heavy police presence in Kenya's capital Nairobi as clashes erupt on its outskirts. Many roads have been blocked and several streets deserted. This is to prevent gatherings to mark the annual pro-democracy rallies. Recent demonstrations had descended into violent clashes. On this day in 1990, Kenyans took to the streets to demand multi-party democracy. And Cambodia accuses Thailand of trying to smear its reputation. Bangkok has claimed that Phnom Penh is behind the cyber attacks in the country. The Southeast Asian neighbors have been feuding since May, when a Cambodian soldier was killed in cross-border fire. The dispute has also led to suspension of Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party.
This is what victory feels like. Yeah!
Elon Musk is no stranger to big launches. First, electric cars with Tesla, then private space flight with SpaceX, next social media with X, and now he's launching his most ambitious project yet, American democracy. That's right, Musk is diving into politics. He's challenging a 160-year-old American tradition. How? By starting a new political party. He's calling it the America Party. And this is what he had to say about it. I'm quoting, "When it comes to bankrupting our country with waste and graft, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom." This is what he posted on X. He wants to give Americans their freedom. Now, as you may already know, the US has a two-party system. There are the Democrats and the Republicans. These are the two political parties, the two main political parties, the Americans vote for one of these two in every election. But Musk wants to break this mold, which is why he's floating a third party. Is this legal? Do Americans even want a third political party? And what is Donald Trump saying about all of this? Let's start from the beginning, from how it started, with Trump's new bill, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. It was passed last week. It will add trillions of dollars to American debt. Elon Musk vehemently opposed this bill, but Trump did not stop, and the US Congress passed it. So now Musk says that he is fed up with this debt slavery. That's what he's called it, debt slavery in the US. He says America is no longer a democracy. It is no longer a two-party system. It is just two sides of the same coin. So Musk wants a third party, the America Party, that will represent what he calls the 80% in the middle. These are people who identify with neither the Democrats nor the Republicans. Right now, they don't have a choice, but they want to say in how their country is run. Let me repeat, this is what Elon Musk is claiming. He says his goal is not to win the presidency. For now, he wants to focus on the US Congress. That's the American Parliament, the US Congress. They have midterm elections next year in 2026, and Elon Musk is looking at a few contests there, where a third-party candidate might have a shot. So Musk wants to be kingmaker, maybe even the king. What does Donald Trump think about this? After all, they were best buddies in the last election. Musk poured millions into Trump's campaign, and in just a few months, the bromance is over. They've gone from being allies to enemies and now potential rivals in the political arena. How is Donald Trump taking all of this? In his trademark style, without mincing words, Trump called Musk a train wreck. He said the Tesla CEO has gone off the trails and that the entire thing was, quote unquote, ridiculous.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. The two-party system is not set in stone. There is no law against a third party in the US, maybe even a fourth. The US Constitution has no restriction. It does not limit the number of political parties. In fact, as of today, the US has 55 political parties. And nobody talks about them because they make no difference. They have no major electoral base, and they've never worked in US politics. The last time a third-party candidate even came close to presidential office was in the year 1912. It was Theodore Roosevelt. He ran under the Progressive Party, better known as the Bull Moose Party, and he came in second ahead of the then-sitting president. But Roosevelt still lost the election to Woodrow Wilson of the Democratic Party. This was in 1912. Then in 1922, there was Ross Perot. He was a Texas billionaire. He created what he called the Reform Party. He won nearly 19% of the popular vote, but not enough to win. And that's the thing. The US has a winner-take-all system. There are no parliamentary coalitions. There are no trophies for second place. And such a system makes it incredibly hard for a third party to survive. But third parties have succeeded in other ways, especially by changing the conversation. Take the Populist Party in the 1890s. They did not win the presidency, but their ideas, like the direct election of senators, eventually became the law. Then there was the Socialist Party in the early 20th century. They never won the White House, but they were early advocates for social security. So third parties may have failed electorally, but their ideas have won. Also, anyone can name a third party. But no one has been able to really get it off the ground. Is there appetite for it in the US? Perhaps there is. Right now, more Americans than ever want a third party. Look at what polls say. 58% Americans are in support of it. They want a third party. This is the group Musk says he's trying to represent, 58%. Which brings us to the billion-dollar question. Why is Elon Musk doing this? Is it to face off against Donald Trump? Or does he want the elusive Oval Office? Here's the catch though, Elon Musk is not a natural-born US citizen. He was not born in the country, so he cannot run for the US presidency. But he can control it for sure. Chances are he will end up backing someone else. But at the end of the day, politics is about power, and that's where Musk and Trump start to look a lot alike. One talks about taking America back. The other promises to give Americans their freedom. They use different words, but they're both playing the same game, essentially. Elon Musk may not be able to run for president, but he wants to hijack the race, perhaps. And if history tells us anything, sometimes you don't need to win the game, you just need to change the rules. Is that what Musk is trying to do? We'll have to wait and see how this goes. July is a busy month on the diplomatic calendar. It's around the middle of the year. Most multilateral groups are busy organizing summits, and this July is no different. Kicking us off is the BRICS bloc. Yesterday, the BRICS leaders gathered in Rio de Janeiro. It was the 17th summit of this grouping. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also in attendance. He's on a marathon 8-day foreign trip. Yesterday, the Indian Prime Minister took part in multiple sessions on security, on reforms, and on financial challenges. Prime Minister Modi always plays an important role at BRICS. But this year, he had added responsibility because two main members were not in attendance this time. President Vladimir Putin of Russia and President Xi Jinping of China. They were not at the summit. So the job of setting the tempo fell upon Prime Minister Modi. He addressed a wide range of issues. And we'll focus on the top 5 takeaways tonight. Number 1, Prime Minister Modi called out terrorism in his remarks. He did not name Pakistan, but the message was clear. Let me quote from what he said. Condemning terrorism must be a matter of principle and not just of convenience. If our response depends on where or against whom the attack occurred, it shall be a betrayal of humanity itself. There must be no hesitation in imposing sanctions on terrorists. The victims and supporters of terrorism cannot be treated equally. That's a clear message to BRICS. Most of the members condemned the Pahalgam attack. Yesterday's joint statement also reiterated that condemnation, but none of them called out Pakistan. You see, Islamabad has been trying to join the BRICS. They also have close ties with a BRICS founder, China. So most members are soft on Pakistan, but Prime Minister Modi is cautioning against that. He says terrorism must be handled on principle, not convenience. That's the first big takeaway. Takeaway number 2. The Indian Prime Minister spoke about critical minerals. Again, let me quote from what he said. We need to work together to make supply chains for critical minerals and technology secure and reliable. It's important to ensure that no country uses these resources for its own selfish gain or as a weapon against others. This could be a jibe at China. Recently, Beijing started blocking key exports to India. They've been blocking exports like rare earths and fertilizers, and this has led to complaints and worries in certain industries in India. So Prime Minister Modi has served China a reminder: do not weaponize critical minerals. Next is takeaway number 3. The Prime Minister talked about championing the global South. And for that, he demanded reforms. I'm quoting again. 2/3 of humanity still lack proper representation in global institutions built in the 20th century. There must be changes in governance structures, voting rights, and leadership positions. To put that in context, the 20th century agencies are the likes of the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. These were created by and dominated by the West. Prime Minister Modi is seeking reform. He wants the global South to be at the table, whether it's a bigger voting share at the IMF or a seat at the United Nations Security Council. There must be just representation. Which brings us to takeaway number 4. The BRICS continues to push for de-dollarization. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Right now, most global trade is conducted via the US dollar, but BRICS is seeking alternatives. They want to move away from the US dollar. And how do you do that? A, by pursuing trade in local currencies like the rupee, the yuan and the ruble. And B, by creating a BRICS payment system. Think of it as a platform to make international payments, maybe from India to Russia, or from Iran to China, or from Brazil to Argentina. Right now, you need Western platforms to make such transactions. But the BRICS is pushing for an alternative. The leaders have assigned this job to finance ministers and central bank governors. They will together create the new platform. And finally, the 5th takeaway, the situation in West Asia. In his remarks, Prime Minister Modi spoke about the war in Gaza. Let me quote from what he said again. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is a cause of grave concern. India firmly believes that no matter how difficult the circumstances, the path of peace is the only option for the good of humanity. That's a very strong remark by the Indian Prime Minister. But here's the more interesting part. The BRICS joint statement condemns the attack on Iran. It calls the attack a violation of international law. Why is this interesting? Because New Delhi had not condemned the strikes on Iran. It merely noted the escalation and it called for talks. In the past, that's all that India did. When the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, condemned the strikes, India refused to join that statement. So clearly, New Delhi did not want to pick sides. It wanted to be neutral. But yesterday, the BRICS, where Iran is also a member, New Delhi did pick a side. We chose the side of international law and we condemned the strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. Which sums up Prime Minister Modi's day at BRICS. He used this platform to detail India's agenda, whether it's for global reforms, or for global South leadership, or against terrorism, or against the wars in West Asia. In a divided world, India sought to create consensus. Amid chaos, India pushed for clarity. Guess who else was tracking the summit in Brazil? Donald Trump, the US president. He is a well-known critic of BRICS. Yesterday, he fired more warning shots. Trump threatened BRICS with extra tariffs. It's on your screen. This is what it says. Any country aligning with the anti-American policies of BRICS will face an additional 10% tariff. That's what Trump said. And he added that there will be no exceptions. It's the same old pattern, really. Whenever the BRICS comes together, Donald Trump threatens them with more tariffs. But this time, the BRICS is pushing back. They discussed Donald Trump's trade war at the summit. They did not name the US or Trump, but the BRICS spoke in one voice against the tariff assault. They called it a threat to trade. And the expanded BRICS has endorsed that statement. Let's first tell you about the expanded group. It includes the founding members, of course. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. The name BRICS, in fact, is an acronym made up of the names of these countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, BRICS. Plus, it has 5 new members: Indonesia, Egypt, Ethiopia, the UAE, and Iran. So 10 countries in total. They account for over half of the world's population. They make up more than 40% of the world's economic output. Together, they criticize Donald Trump's tariffs. In fact, countries like China use stronger language. Listen to what they said.
I've just shared our view on the BRICS mechanism. We believe that BRICS is a positive force in the international community. Its cooperation is open and inclusive, and not targeted at any particular country. As for tariffs, we have consistently opposed tariff wars and trade wars. We are against using tariffs as a tool for coercion and pressure. Arbitrarily imposing tariffs does not serve the interests of any party.
BRICS is not targeted against any particular country. The group has said this repeatedly in the past. But the US president still feels threatened by this bloc. He believes that the BRICS can challenge the dollar and, by extension, challenge America's leadership. It can erode American influence on the global economy. That is Trump's fear, especially the trend of de-dollarization. It makes him uncomfortable. What is de-dollarization? Limiting the use of the US dollar in global trade. And how do you do it? By relying on other currencies, by carrying out bilateral trade without the US dollar. BRICS countries are in a position to do that. And Trump is determined to stop that. In fact, let me quote from what he said in the past. This is Donald Trump, and I'm quoting, "I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war." This should explain Donald Trump's repeated threats to BRICS. But the question is, are these threats even working? And the answer is not really. Because trade within BRICS is rising. From 2021 to 2024, it grew by 40%. Last year, trade within BRICS touched $740 billion. And it's growing thanks to Western sanctions. The West, led by the United States, is trigger happy. They slapped sanctions to put pressure on adversaries. These sanctions have fractured the world economy, and they have forced BRICS to resort to more bilateral trade. Let me give you some examples, starting with Russia. Russia's economy is under sanctions, thousands of sanctions, more than 20,000 Western sanctions on one country. It won't stop trading, of course. It will build alternatives. And here's what Russia did. It adopted the Chinese currency, the yuan. So by July 2024, 53% of Russia's foreign transactions were in the yuan. 3 years ago, this figure was at 40%. Last year, it was 53%. So sanctions pushed Russia to de-dollarize. Our second example is India. India is buying more Russian oil than ever before. Last month, Russian crude made up 43% of India's oil imports. That's more than Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE combined. That's how much oil we buy from Russia, despite Western sanctions. Then we have Brazil and South Africa. They're buying Chinese cars in large numbers. Brands like BYD and SAIC are ruling these markets. In Brazil, BYD took over the Ford factory. Ford, of course, is the American company. In South Africa, at least 27 Chinese car models are now selling in showrooms. Now, these may all sound like very different examples, but they all fit a larger pattern. Russia is turning to the yuan, the Chinese currency. India is buying more Russian oil, and Brazil and South Africa are opening up to Chinese products. What does this tell you? BRICS countries are building alternatives to American trade and the American currency. And that is what has rattled Donald Trump. De-dollarization is still a long shot. The US dollar is still the de facto global currency, and ideas like a BRICS currency may not really take off because politically, BRICS as a group has clear limitations. But its strength lies in bilateral deals, the flexible one-on-one agreements. This approach makes BRICS agile. They can respond quickly and effectively. That's what Russia has highlighted as well.
We have indeed seen such statements by President Trump, but it is very important to note here that the uniqueness of a group like BRICS is that it is a group of countries that share common approaches and a common worldview on how to cooperate based on their own interest. And this cooperation within BRICS has never been and will never be directed against any third countries.
So Trump might want to contain the BRICS, but his threats are proving to be counterproductive. They're not deterring BRICS, they're galvanizing it.
U.S. relations, and I think that's as we engage with her broadly.
Different countries have different kinds of diplomacy. China has wolf warrior diplomacy. France has champagne diplomacy. The UK has colonial hangover diplomacy. And Pakistan? Well, Pakistan has Delulu diplomacy. And it's courtesy one man, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. His name may scream political pedigree, but his ideas are pure delusion. Look at his latest interview. The former Pakistan foreign minister was on Al Jazeera. He was asked about terrorists, the likes of Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar. First, Bilawal said he has no idea where some of them are.
It is factually not correct that Hafiz Saeed is a free man. He is in the custody of the Pakistani state. As for Masood Azhar, it is our belief that he is in Afghanistan. If and when the Indian government shares information that he is on Pakistani soil, we will be more than happy to arrest him.
Then he came up with a deal for India, a sort of barter. Listen to what he said.
If India is willing to be cooperative in that process, I'm sure there will be no hurdle in extraditing any individual of concern. As part of a comprehensive dialogue with Pakistan, where terrorism is one of the issues that we discuss, I'm sure Pakistan would not be opposed to any of these things.
Provide proof and we will hand over the terrorists. That is Bilawal's offer. You know what this sounds like? It's like a pickpocket returning your wallet. They say they want to give it back, but before that, they're asking for CCTV footage and 3 eyewitnesses. Pakistan has shielded terrorists for years. Terrorism is their state policy, but Islamabad's political scion wants proof from India. Now, Bilawal may have thought that he was a visionary, but he got slammed by his own countrymen, and leading the charge was Talha Saeed, the son of Hafiz Saeed. He said, and I'm quoting, "Bilawal Bhutto is not a true Muslim. How can he offer my father like this?" So terrorists are now publicly shaming politicians for even pretending to follow the law. In most countries, it would be a national crisis. In Pakistan, it's just another Monday. And it's not just terrorists throwing tantrums. Islamabad's political party has also joined the outrage parade. The PTI, that is Imran Khan's party, called Bilawal, and I'm quoting, a symbol of confusion. Others accused him of, and I'm quoting again, betraying his legacy. That he was just pursuing political gains. This is Pakistan's A2 Bilawal moment. And for once, we do not disagree. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is chasing political gains with this suggestion. But there's a problem here. This is a man who's caught between two realities. In one, he's sipping lattes in Geneva, talking about regional stability in his westernized accent. In another, he's tiptoeing around terror warlords, those who have more power in Pakistan than politicians. So what does Bilawal do? He tries to play both sides. He wants to say the right things on international media. He wants India to provide proof. He wants New Delhi to serve it on a silver platter. And what will Pakistan do with it? Well, what they've done for years. Lose the terrorists in the Rawalpindi fog. But let's indulge Bilawal Bhutto Zardari for a moment. If he wants proof, here is some proof. Masood Azhar was in Indian custody before being released in 1999. That too in exchange for hijacked passengers. He then founded Jaish-e-Mohammed. Hafiz Saeed orchestrated the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai. He was the mastermind, and India has provided enough proof for it. We have shared intelligence. We have handed over evidence, only to be bled again and again by Pakistan's terror machinery. Because Pakistan's problem is not lack of evidence, it is the lack of intent. So Bilawal Bhutto Zardari may have his grand deal, but he needs to understand that terrorism is a state policy in his country. The generals needed to bleed India, the clerics needed to rally the faithful, the politicians needed to distract the public from collapsing governance, and the terrorists, well, they just need the airtime. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari thought he was making a statesman-like gesture. Instead, he confirmed what India has known all along. Pakistan has no intention of fighting terrorism because in Islamabad, terrorism is not the problem, it is the plan. So thanks for the offer, Bilawal. But it's a little too late. You can keep your missing terrorists, you can keep your magical maps where Masood Azhar is probably in Afghanistan. We have seen your Delulu diplomacy before. and India is not buying it anymore. Let's go back to May 2025. Pakistani bases were smoldering from Indian missile hits. Their runways were cratered, their army chief was hiding in a bunker. Things got so bad that Pakistan sued for peace. But on social media, it all looked very different. You couldn't see the damaged Pakistani bases. All you could see was alleged Rafale debris. And now we know why. Because China was running a fake news campaign. Let me show you a new report. It was prepared by France's military intelligence. And what does it say? That China peddled fake news about France's Rafale jets. Now, to give you some context, India likely used Rafale jets during Operation Sindoor. We hit multiple terror bases inside Pakistan. In the ensuing battle, Islamabad claims they shot down Indian planes, 5 of them, including 3 Rafales. India has not confirmed this. The military has admitted some losses, but not the specifics. Which brings us to this report. It says China capitalized on this confusion. They posted manipulated pictures on social media. They posted fake pictures calling it Rafale debris. They used AI-generated images and even posted video game sequences as dog fights. The French report claims more than 1,000 new social media accounts popped up in the month of May, and their sole job was to push anti-Rafale propaganda. The question is, what was the goal here? Why was China smearing the Rafale jet? The first objective was business. France sells the Rafale jet to multiple countries. China is looking to sell their jets to these countries. So simply put, Rafale is a market competitor. If you show the French plane is not reliable, you can get more buyers. And that's what China tried. They peddled the same narrative to countries buying the Rafale, like Indonesia, for example. They told Indonesia that Indian Rafales had failed, that they were neutralized by Chinese weapons. Clearly, the goal was to discourage them, to make them buy Chinese jets instead. Which brings us to the second possible reason, to deflect from their losses. The fact is, Indian missiles struck Pakistan at will. Meanwhile, the Chinese air defenses were caught napping. They could not intercept the BrahMos missiles fired by India. Of course, China does not like that story. The story they would like is of downed Rafales. The question is, what is the truth? For starters, China is not the best source here. In fact, they're probably the worst source. China was actively helping Pakistan against India. Says who? India's deputy army chief. He says Beijing used satellites to monitor Indian troops. And they later gave this information to Pakistan. As always, China is denying all of this. The French report on Rafale bashing, the Indian claims of satellite assistance. Beijing has denied all of it. But the truth is, they're too close to this story, too close to be in judgment of what happened. Which also brings us to the larger issue of jet losses. India has not released the details or the numbers. All we have are assessments. Pakistan claims 5 jets were shot down. The French say it was likely 3, 1 Rafale, 1 Russian Sukhoi, and 1 Mirage 2000. Now, we don't know why India has not released the numbers. We also don't know how the losses happened. Either way, it's beside the point. Losses are part and parcel of combat. If you launch an operation, you risk losing some assets. Do not obsess over that. Instead, obsess over what was achieved. Were the terror targets destroyed? Yes, they were. Did all the pilots make it back home? Yes, they did. Were the Pakistani bases damaged? Yes, they were. Did we establish supremacy over Islamabad? Again, yes, we did. And that is the story here. All this reportage on jet losses is biased. I'll tell you why I say this. A British F-35 has been stranded in India since June 14th. No combat, no enemy attack, no military operation. We don't even know what happened to this jet. And look at how Western media is covering it. This is the New York Times headline. This is what it says. British fighter jet takes unexpected detour to India and is embraced by locals. This is the headline from the New York Times. Now, what is more interesting here? The fact that a 100 million plane is not flying, or the fact that locals are embracing it? For the New York Times, it is the latter. And Reuters went a step ahead. Here's their headline. Stranded UK F-35 jet becomes unexpected star in Indian tourism campaign. Again, that's not even the operative part. But tell that to Western media, especially American and British ones. They will defend their weapons come what may. And do not get us wrong, we are not saying everyone should do the same. We are saying be aware of the bias here. There is a reason Western media is talking about India's alleged losses, and there is a reason why they won't highlight our wins. It is not authenticity. It is politics. The Dalai Lama has been awarded just about everything. The Nobel Peace Prize, multiple honorary citizenships, the US Congressional Medal, and many, many doctorates. But one award has eluded him. An award he would probably cherish more than any other. And that is the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor. The name translates to the jewel of India, the Bharat Ratna. It tells you how prestigious this award is. It is given to people who display exceptional service or performance, maybe in politics or in social service or art or sports, and it's very exclusive. In total, only 53 people have got the Bharat Ratna. Only 53. In 78 years of India's independence, only 53 people. Could the Dalai Lama join that list? A multi-party group of lawmakers is pushing for it. It is called the All-Party Indian Parliamentary Forum on Tibet. This forum is made up of Indian members of parliament. Around 80 of them have signed a petition, 80 MPs. They've signed a petition. They demand that the Dalai Lama be given the Bharat Ratna. They want to reach 100 signatures first. After that, this petition will be given to the Indian Prime Minister and the President. Now, this bid raises three questions. One, can the Dalai Lama get this award? Two, should India give it to him? And three, how would China react? Let's go one by one. There is nothing that disqualifies the Dalai Lama from the award. In the past, foreigners have gotten it, like Nelson Mandela in 1990, he was given the Bharat Ratna, and Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan in 1987. So eligibility is not an issue. Which brings us to the second question. Should India give it to him? If it's a question of deservedness, there is little doubt. The Dalai Lama is the most famous political refugee in the world. He's fought for Tibetans since the 1960s. Beyond that, he's also spread the message of peace and non-violence. He calls himself a son of India. He says Indian rice and dal made his body. So on paper, you could say he deserves it. There is no moral argument against it. Unfortunately, the world does not run on morals. It runs on interests and geopolitics. Which brings us to the third question. How would China react to such a move? They would throw a tantrum like never before. We saw a sneak peek of that on Sunday. The Dalai Lama celebrated his 90th birthday yesterday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wished him on social media. Look at how China reacted to it.
The Indian side should fully recognize the high sensitivity of Tibet-related issues, see clearly the anti-China separatist nature of the 14th Dalai Lama, honor its commitments on Tibet-related issues, act with caution, and stop using Tibet-related issues to interfere in China's internal affairs. China has lodged a protest with the Indian side on the issue.
Well, that was for a birthday wish. Imagine what a Bharat Ratna would do to them. China would probably blow a fuse. And that's the choice that India has to make. It can look at the Dalai Lama as leverage or liability. A leverage it can use against China, or a liability in resetting ties with China. Which way will New Delhi go? Well, this government, the present government, has been willing to leverage the Tibetan movement. We saw that in the last 10 years. After taking over as Prime Minister, Narendra Modi tried to reach out to China, so he kept his distance from the Dalai Lama. No talks, no birthday wishes. But he broke that silence in 2021. Prime Minister Modi spoke to the Dalai Lama on his birthday that year, 2021. He also announced it on social media. So what changed? The Galwan clashes of 2020. After China revealed its true colors, Prime Minister Modi turned up the screws. He began reaching out to the Dalai Lama. So like I said, India has been willing to leverage this issue. As for the Bharat Ratna, it's not guaranteed. There are many bridges to cross before reaching that one. For instance, Prime Minister Modi has not met the Dalai Lama yet. He took charge in 2014, but he has never met the Dalai Lama. Maybe that could be considered before a Bharat Ratna, or maybe a meeting with the foreign minister. Whatever India chooses, one thing is quite clear. This will become a flashpoint, especially when the time for reincarnation comes. India has said that only the Dalai Lama can select his successor. But China wants to appoint its own. These two positions are irreconcilable. They are bound to clash when the time comes. Now let's talk about Sebi, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. It is India's market regulator. Last week it made a rare move. It banned one of Wall Street's biggest trading firms, Jane Street. Jane Street is accused of manipulating the markets. The company's trades have raised eyebrows in recent years. In the last 2 years, it made about $4.3 billion from the Indian markets. How did it do that? Well, Sebi says the company used its massive funds to move prices. First, it bought large stakes in less active parts of the Indian market. This misled ordinary investors. These investors believed that there was a strong demand, so they bought the same assets themselves. Then Jane Street placed bets against the original trades. It dumped its holdings. It made a profit. But these retail investors in India suffered losses. The Indian regulator says Jane Street made unlawful gains, so it has banned the company and slapped a fine of about $570 million. Jane Street has denied all wrongdoing. It plans to challenge the charges. Now, this case is being seen as a clear message from Sebi, the Indian regulator, that everyone must play by the rules no matter how big they are.
The Indian stock market is like a giant football league where millions of investors play every day. There are smaller, local level clubs, as well as big international players. But everyone must follow the same rules. Recently, one of the foreign teams in this league tried to bend them. It is a US-based firm called Jane Street. They have a reputation of being fast, rich, and highly skilled. Over the past 2 years, they made an incredible $4.3 billion. But something felt wrong. India's markets regulator, Sebi, is like a referee for the markets. It noticed Jane Street wasn't playing fair. They weren't winning purely because they were better. According to Sebi, Jane Street was bending the flow of the game. On certain days, the company used to flood the quiet parts of the market, areas where there was less action and fewer players. This gave the impression that the market was going up. It pushed up the price, and it drew a large number of other players. They were predominantly retail investors. They believed they were investing in assets, seeing a genuine rally. That's when Jane Street pulled the rug from beneath them. After placing bets on a crash, Jane Street dumped its positions. This is where retail investors made a loss, and Jane Street profited. Sebi says the company used this tactic in the index options market. This is where traders bet on the future movement of a group of stocks. They are highly liquid in nature, meaning they can attract large investments quickly, but they are extremely risky as well. Sebi says it would now seize around $570 million from Jane Street. The regulator calls this unlawful gains. Because from 2021 to 2024, when Jane Street made these trades, India's retail investors lost around $21 billion. Sebi believes Jane Street's trades played a role in deepening these losses. The company, for now, faces a ban from the Indian markets. It cannot trade in Indian stocks directly or indirectly. Their accounts have been frozen. Jane Street has 3 months to unwind any active trades. This a rare intervention by Sebi against a foreign entity. According to experts, the regulator is sending a message, especially to those engaging in high-frequency trading. They are welcome to play in India, but if they bend the rules, Sebi is watching, and it is prepared to blow the whistle.
In most countries, you arrest a mayor when they've done something wrong. In Turkey, you arrest a mayor when they've done something right, like winning an election. This weekend, police raided the homes of not one, not two, but 3 elected mayors. All of them were from the opposition party, the CHP. All of them were voted in by the people, and now all of them are behind bars. The government says it's about corruption. The opposition says it's about crushing democracy. History says it's about President Erdogan trying to tighten his grip on power. Because in the last 6 months alone, 11 mayors have been arrested in Turkey. So what do these latest arrests mean? Our next report tells you.
Most of Turkey was easing into the weekend. But in the country's south, police squads descended on the homes of 3 elected mayors. Zedan Karalar of Adana, Muhittin Bujek of Antalya, and Abdurrahman Tudere of Adiyaman. They are all members of Turkey's main opposition party, the CHP, and now they are all in custody. The state-run Anadolu agency called it a crackdown on corruption. The opposition called it something else entirely, a political purge. And for the millions watching from the sidelines, it looked like déjà vu. To understand what's happening in Turkey right now, you have to rewind to March. That's when Ekrem İmamoğlu, the immensely popular mayor of Istanbul and Erdogan's most formidable rival, was jailed on corruption charges. That arrest sparked the largest protests the country had seen in over a decade. But the government didn't flinch. In the 3 months since, a pattern has emerged. One by one, CHP-led municipalities have become targets. Prosecutors cite allegations of organized crime, tender rigging, and bribery. The accused say it's a charade to dismantle the only party standing between Erdogan and unchecked, unending rule. The latest arrests signal a grim picture. All 3 had been part of the opposition's sweeping success in last year's local elections. That's when CHP made inroads even in cities long considered Erdogan strongholds. According to state prosecutors, the men sought unfair financial benefits from municipal contractors. These charges based largely on testimony from a businessman who's now cooperating with authorities. But it doesn't stop here. Just days earlier, Tunç Soyer, former CHP mayor of Izmir, was detained along with 137 others in an investigation into alleged fraud. In total, 11 mayors and hundreds of opposition officials have been arrested in the past few months. All roads, it seems, lead to one man's office.
Every coup has a junta leading it. This coup has 3 prosecutors, 3 judges, 3 secret witnesses and confessors. And this coup has a leader. Erdogan, who was elected as president and given power by people, is not a president anymore, but the leader of the junta.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has ruled Turkey first as prime minister, then as president since 2003. His grip on the country has only tightened. But this isn't just about jailing a few opposition figures. Erdogan wants to become president for life. But there's a problem. His popularity is plummeting. Inflation is sky high, the lira is in free fall. And the opposition, once fragmented and feeble, is now united behind one charismatic figure, Ekrem İmamoğlu. A March survey found İmamoğlu would beat Erdogan in a head-to-head presidential race. Soon after that poll came out, CHP called for snap elections. And then the arrests began. Turkey's next official election isn't due till 2028. But behind the scenes, a different contest is already underway. This is Erdogan's version of a shadow election. Eliminate your opponent before they can even show up on the ballot. So what happens next? The opposition says they're ready to fight. Over 7.2 million people have signed a petition demanding early elections. Rallies are growing in size and frequency. The protest movement is being described as the most serious threat to Erdogan's rule in a decade. But Erdogan is betting on fear, fatigue, and force. He knows how to weather a storm and right now controls the weather report.
Now, how about some Monday motivation? Do you need relationship advice? Want to know if a man loves you? See how much he spends. And we are not the ones offering these pearls of wisdom. These profound words come from a new video game. A live-action Chinese video game called Revenge on Gold Diggers. That is the name, Revenge on Gold Diggers. In this game, the players are male protagonists. They are lured into relationships by manipulative women who want their money. What a shocker, we say. Now, the man or the player responds, and how they respond shapes the story. That is the game. Despite this innovative storyline, the game topped sales lists within hours. But soon controversy followed. People slammed the narrative, the insulting gender stereotypes, and the problematic title. As you would know, gold digger is a derogatory term. It refers to someone who forms a relationship purely for money, and this is a label usually slapped on women. The video game reinforces it. All the so-called gold diggers in it are all women. It screams misogyny. So as the criticism became heated, the game was renamed. It is now called Emotional Anti-Fraud Stimulator. Very catchy, we say. It has done little to undo the damage, though. After all, this frustration is not new, and it is not limited to one game. For decades now, video games have had a persistent problem: sexism. And the research is pretty consistent on this. Video games usually have three types of women. The first is a damsel in distress. She needs saving, usually by the dashing male lead. The second type is the villain, the conniving woman, like with this Chinese game. And the third one is the ultimate warrior. She can be strong, but usually this character is depicted as hypersexualized with accentuated features and revealing costumes. And all of this has consequences, psychological and real-life consequences, from stereotyping women to promoting their lack of agency, normalizing harassment and setting unrealistic body standards. And none of this is okay, not for adults, especially not for children. Fortunately, there is some progress. Between the 1990s and 2010s, there were about 15% female characters in video games. Today, this number has gone up to 35%. Developers have also made intentional efforts. They've tried to move past the stereotypes at least a little bit. They have tried. Look at the famous adventurer Lara Croft. She made her debut in 1996 with mini shorts and the proportions of a Barbie doll on Ozempic. But by 2013, she finally found a pair of pants and a deeper storyline. So progress is minimal, but video games have evolved. And this is not out of the goodness of the developers' hearts. When you picture the gaming landscape, what does the audience look like? Mostly male, I'm assuming. So we often think that it makes sense. Men are the target audience, so games have to be designed for men, but this idea is wrong. The world over, women make up 45% of all gamers. That's nearly half. 45% gamers are women. Sure, the levels vary country-wise. In South America, Brazil has about 51% female gamers. In Asia, India has 41% women as gamers. and the Philippines is 63%. But in China, male gamers hold the majority at 70%. So the levels of participation vary. But globally, women make up almost half of all video game players, meaning gaming is no longer a man's world. Women are not just living in it, they're also shaping it. So alienating them is not good business sense. The global video game market stands at about $299 billion. By 2030, it is projected to double to reach $600 billion. Experts say this number could be much higher if video games cater to the other half of their audience too. So in the short run, being sexist may get video games the numbers, but in the long run, they're not just harming the society, they're also leaving money on the table, and that is no way to play the game. It's blockbuster season in America. The new Formula One movie is out. A new Jurassic World movie is out. And of course, you've got the latest installment of Billionaire Battles, Elon Musk versus Donald Trump. It's like watching a fight in slow motion. They're not in the same room. They're not even in the same city. They're simply firing off social media posts, that too on two different platforms. Of course, there's nothing to worry about. It's not like either of them have anything better to do, like running the world's biggest economy or launching rockets and satellite internet services. This has to be one of the weirdest fights ever, because the zingers are not good, but the stakes are higher than ever. Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Iranians mark Ashura as Supreme Leader Khamenei attends the first public event since the war with Israel. Indonesian volcano spews ash over 11 kilometers into the sky. And in Pakistan, a pet lion attacks people on the streets after escaping from captivity. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1985, 17-year-old German sensation Boris Becker became the youngest male player to win the Wimbledon, a record which stands to this day. Becker's fast-paced serve and volley game earned him the nickname of Boom Boom. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka karj ho.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
$4 idioma.
Portuguese,
Por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.